Two, I think all of us know that April the 22nd is Earth Day, and we have the most wonderful guest here today to talk about aging in a green society and how we can actually leave a better world for our kids and grandkids. But before Mary introduces him, I want to say that the reason that I do this broadcast every week is that my mission in Success in Aging is to bring hope, and that's to help older people engage. And one of the things I do is the Success in Aging Essentials box, and you can read all about that at successinaging.com. And if you'd like any other articles or videos that I do, go to dipatterson.com. And I thank you so much for being here. My wonderful comments community, just check in, let us know where you're watching from, and we totally appreciate it. Mary, will you please introduce my wonderful guest?
Of course. Well, Rick, say hi to the millions of people who are watching you right now.
My 15 minutes of fame.
That's right.
We'll give you 30.
Okay, 30. I'll take it.
Well, you might have had a few minutes of fame when you were vice president and director of the academic affairs for AARP, a little organization I think a couple people have heard about. So we're really honored to have you on the show. I'm going to read your bio. There's so much more on your website, so I'll be popping that up. Everyone,
keep it short, okay? Just the less the better.
All right. Well, his formal name actually is Harry, but he goes by Rick. And there's probably a story behind that, which I'm sure he'll share later. Rick Moody, PhD, so he's super fancy. He recently retired as the vice president of and director of academic affairs, as I said, with the AARP in Washington, D.C. And he's currently the visiting professor at Fielding Graduate University and also serves as a senior fellow of Encore.org, which I'm sure we'll hear about as well. Mr. Moody previously served as executive director of the Brookdale Center on Aging at Hunter College and chairman of the board for the Elder Hostel, which is now Rhodes Scholar. He is listed on the Next Age Speakers Bureau and speaks extensively around the United States about climate change. And I'll also be popping up his website if you would like to sign up for his very informative newsletter. So without further ado, everybody welcome Rick Moody.
Hey, why did you stop there? What can I say? I get tired just hearing about all these things. And then it's like a bad dream. And then I realize, wait a minute, you're actually 77 years old. You're retired. You don't need to worry about any of this stuff anymore. It's all in the past.
Wow, I didn't think you were a day over 49.
I know that bit. But see, the problem is a lot of people get worried because they haven't got any purpose, any reason to get up in the morning. And my good friend Richard Leiter, who's written an entire book about purpose, he's written the book on it. He gets to the point, which is you got to have a reason to get up in the morning. And my reason is protecting the earth for future generations. End of discussion. Over to you.
I'm going to jump down into the green room and let you guys talk about that. I'm super excited to hear about it. So thank you for being on the show, Rick.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mary. Really
I'm glad it's called the green room. That's all I can say.
Okay, everyone listening to us, if you haven't figured this out by now, Rick and I are great friends. And
we know each other very well.
We've known each other for years and years. And that's why he is so incredibly good at this. I mean, just welcoming, etc. I want you to know that Rick Moody has done more for your aging in the last 30 to 40 years of his life than you could ever know. So Rick, I just want to thank you so much for all of your work that you've done over the years. And I will not test your endurance by going on and on, but some really cool things are real now because you got them there. So the first thing we want to talk about is how older people can effectively address their concerns about climate change as they age in place.
The most important thing that you can do if you're my age, 77 or 67 or 57, let's say you're eligible for AARP, you're over the age of 50. Let's call you older. The most important thing you can do is to change your mind and stop thinking bad thoughts. A bad thought is, it's hopeless, it's too late, what can one person do, et cetera, et cetera. There's lots and lots of excuses like that. Actually, the whole point is find the one thing that you can do and do it.
Yes, that's right. Purpose. Purpose is a beautiful thing. And I know that We are all challenged, especially after the last couple of years we've had, to be purposeful every day,
Yep.
to think purposefully, to think about what we want this world to look like for our grandchildren. As we are still alive, we have a lot of good life left in us. If you wake up every day, as a famous saying, if you're golfing on this side of the grass, then you
I like that.
Yes.
Right. That's good, because that includes death. And
Yes.
we want to be aware of that. I looked up just the other day the mortality tables. It's the kind of thing that gerontologists do. And I said, okay, I'm 77. I have, as a male, we don't do as well as the women in all kinds of respects.
There
I'll
you
come
go.
back to that later. But I got about 10 years. All right.
Okay.
But I have a 5-year-old granddaughter.
Oh.
And a year or so ago, before my wife and I moved to San Mateo, it's not on the screen right now, but I'm sitting right here in San Mateo, California. We've had some big fires in California, as you may know if you read the newspapers or anything else. And my daughter, who lives just a half hour from where I'm sitting now, was taking Annalie to nursery school around lunchtime. And the little girl looks up at her mom and says, "Mommy, why are we going to school at night?" And that's because at that time, the sky was so dark here in the Bay Area of San Francisco Bay Area that it could have been nighttime. Okay. And she noticed that. So what's the saying? From the mouths of little children.
That's right.
That is a wake up call to me as a grandpa that says, wait a minute, by the time Annalie is 77, what's the world going to be like for her? How about 47? How about 27?
That's right.
We've got to be thinking that way. And okay, I can't protect the world. It's true. I can't change I haven't got Joe Biden's phone number on my Rolodex type of thing. I'm not an important person in that respect. Very few people are. And the people who are at the top of the food chain, the John Kerry, the Joe Biden, et cetera, maybe they're constrained in all kinds of ways. But Greta Thunberg, who is, I think, only 18 years old now, right? Not much older, 13 years older than my granddaughter. She's the one who said, there isn't a problem with climate change. We have all the means at hand already, the technology, the economics, et cetera. There's only one thing we lack, and that's the political will. That's the will to do it.
Absolutely.
And it starts in your own head, in your own mind that says, wait a minute, what can I do today to make a difference? That's my message, really. And it's an important message. So I keep saying it over and over again in case you didn't hear it.
Good. Because how many times does it take to get something lodged in somebody's brain? Isn't it about 13 times?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. So I will say that I am fortunate to be in the generation of when I was having little kids, young moms who taught their children when they see an aluminum can to pick it up and throw it in a recycling bin, or to take a bag with them and make sure it gets in recycling. That took about 25 years or less. And those kids who started having babies, to them, recycling is a normal part of the day.
Right. We need to do that. We need to do that.
And as we extrapolate that, those small things like throwing a can into the right container, when we think about our world, let's think you've moved to San Mateo. Congratulations, by the way. I'm in SoCal. And
we're in the same state, but it's almost 40 million people. It's like it's another country.
That's exactly right. Karen Rashid, thanks so much for checking in. Yes, we have to talk about these things. And I have, just to let you know, Rick, I have a large group of very interested people. We will have widows coming in, and the perspective. Karen is a self-employed businesswoman, and so she can pick and choose during the day what she can listen to. And I'm really thankful she's here. We'll have other people join in, but they're all in the age group that you want, Rick.
Good. Because I want their questions too. I don't have all the answers, but I want the questions.
But you're gonna get us thinking, and that's the exciting thing, that you are using your influence and all of the years that you spent as director of academic affairs for AARP. You're going to use all that for us. Now let's talk about something that is all of us understand, and that is there's green environment and there's green money. So how can we really invest in keeping for the 20, 30, or 40 years we have left of life? how can we invest, and who can we get on board with this specifically?
It's a great question, and it's one that I'm working on at the moment because I'm actually writing a book called Climate Change in an Aging Society. And there's a whole chapter in there on investment. And part of that chapter is going to appear, hopefully, from AARP or some other publication, an article that I'm doing with Steve Vernon called Investing for a Green Retirement. So it's not hopeless, but it means you got to pay attention to where your money is. Now, you single-handedly cannot say, okay, I don't want my pension fund to invest in fossil fuels or whatever it may be. They may not, it may be hard for you to even find out what they are investing in. And besides, people don't typically go around changing their plan all that often. But the first step is to start investigating, to get a little bit more up to date on where your money is located, if you have a pension of some kind. And many people listening to this are going to have some sort of pension. It might not be a big deal, but it's something, some private pension, because most of us can't live on Social Security. I'm getting Social Security, have been getting it for, 8 years now, 7 years. I got it at age 70. But that's because I have some other money put aside in investments, and it pays attention to focus on that. And some people talk about this in terms of ESG, environmental, social, and governance. They look at those three things, ESG, and try to rate different companies in terms of how good they are. There are problems with that approach. I don't think it's a magic bullet that's going to solve all the challenges, but it's something to begin with. Look at that. If you're investing in something, check out your pension investments and find out what companies they're invested in. You may have more influence than you think.
Yes, that's really the truth.
I'm sorry, it's ESG. I may have said it wrong, not HSG, ESG.
No, I think you said ESG. Okay, so now let's talk about how much a human's voice does. I tend to, when a company wants me to go to their website and fill something out, when a company wants me to get a text and click and all the rest, I have found that when you call in person and you go through the hassle of getting to a live human being, and now the glory is that almost every one of our phone calls are recorded. So what you say will land in more than one ear, which is really, really important. And the way we comport ourselves when we talk to customer service people, the way we explain the situation with patients, and we can ask for something and be the joy of that person's day. And
I am so glad you're saying this, because people have a tendency, some people anyway, you're on the phone and maybe you're upset, you're frustrated, you're angry. This is not what you want to do.
No,
you want to approach them, ask them what their name is. They might not always tell you. Tell them your name. Indicate, that you understand their situation. Don't fake it. Try to really understand what are the limits of what they're doing. To whom can they talk? Is there some way that you can amplify your message? This is very, very important, what you're saying.
I've also found that at the end of a conversation, I ask for a supervisor to compliment that customer service representative. When they know that I got it, when I understood, like you said, their plight. There are still a lot of people working from home with the kids in the next room, or a mother-in-law, that they also have to take care of in another room. It becomes very important that on a human level, we respect them and respond to their questions. I also usually try to thank them if they're trained well. And I find that customer service reps will boast about their own company's training if I say something kind or complimentary about that. I also ask for something. It's like an action to-do list. I ask them to put in a suggestion. There are no more suggestion boxes anymore. And we have no idea what disappears on the e-throw, the space out there. So to have a personal voice, I really appreciate, Rick, whenever I've seen you speak live, you have a way of communicating to people what you think is best policy. And I know that you were you basically laid the groundwork and got done at AARP a list of jobs that were available for people over 50. Because if you're asking your clients, you're asking your constituency to do something, you have to give them something too. And I think that's as much on a personal phone call or what you did for a whole organization back in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, you know, Di, you need to do training for people in, let's say, kindness practice, because the Dalai Lama put it this way. He said, "Be kind whenever possible.
Yes.
It is always possible." All right.
Yes.
So if you remember that, I try to remember that when I'm on a line, when I used to fly in airplanes before COVID, and I'm on this cafeteria or something, and there's somebody behind the window there who's hassled and people are angry, they're in a hurry. Just make eye contact.
Right.
Just connect and thank them or do something. Checkout line in a supermarket. Now, how does this connect with political action? It connects because every action is ultimately individual, whether it's at the bottom, we're at the bottom, people like you and me, or at the top, people like Joe Biden, John Kerry, whoever your senator, congressperson is. So you might not talk to that legislator, but you can talk to a staffer. Believe it or not, people often get through. You don't always get through, but even if you can't get through, I'll give you an example of something that I do. I did today on my cell phone. Right here, I'm going to look at it and see if we can find it. All right. He's going to love this because I know the guy who created this.
Nice.
Climate Action Now.
Yes.
This is an app which doesn't cost you anything, but permits me, and I've already done it today, to send messages to 5 different individuals. And it's programmed in such a way that it's already tuned in to who is my city council person in San Mateo, who is my state legislator, national congressman, Joe Biden, the EPA, et cetera, et cetera. This is available. And I will make sure that anybody who's listening to this, it's not focused on aging, by the way, but it is focused on climate action. So if you're sitting around, you got nothing to do, you're in the doctor's office, you're waiting for the bus, you can sit on your phone and you can punch through all the things. I didn't even mean to do this, but he's going to like the fact that I'm doing this, and I'll tell him that I did this.
Oh, good.
But my point is, whether you do this or you write a postcard or you do a telephone call, doesn't make any difference. Do something. Do the little thing. And believe it or not, you'll feel better having done that little thing by the time you get to the end of the day.
You will, Rick. That's absolutely.
Am I right?
You are absolutely right. And I will say that when we do reach out from our little world to somebody else's world, wherever on that scale, people tend to remember the good.
They do.
They do. And I will say that I've called my congressman's office enough over the years. And with Alzheimer's Association, we would march on the Capitol in Sacramento. And he knew me, I knew him.
Right. Here's Di again.
That's right. And so this year, when I called and said, Lou Correa promised last year that the Woman of the Year would be, who I put up the nomination last year, and beautifully, he came through as his word. And Holly Hagler, who is the CEO of Meals on Wheels Orange County, received Woman of the Year. That's very exciting.
That's
one
great.
Voice who makes sense and is not an angry constituent is a really good thing. And I had not planned to bring up Holly or the Woman of the Year, but she totally deserves it, as Meals on Wheels Orange County is doing a phenomenal job in what is considered one of the wealthiest counties in America. We have pockets of poverty that are addressed by Meals on Wheels because they have done such a conscientious job.
Yeah, I know it very well. I know Meals on Wheels. Remember, I spent most of my life in New York City. So even though I don't talk like a New Yorker, I am a New Yorker. And
that's right.
Now here in California.
That's right. So, and I got to interview Janet Sayer years ago. She's the one who
Janet Sainer. Yep. I knew Janet very well.
Yes. And when she was 90, she was on one of my PBS type broadcasts. And what a wonderful woman. She was the one who talked the mayor into Meals on Wheels in New York City. So again, the voices that we have are weighted They are. They're weighted more than we know with people that we talk to. And so going into, we're nearing the top of the hour. We're not quite there yet. We have another 10 minutes. You are very interested in leaving a greener world, a more environmentally safe world for our grandchildren. We have lots of grandparents who listen to this. And what advice would you give to grandparents?
My first advice is the one that I said in terms of your own head. The other advice that I have is use that to learn about what's going on and we have a saying in the environmental movement, think globally, but act locally.
Yes.
So the first thing I did when I moved to San Mateo was to join the group Sustainable San Mateo.
Okay.
Which is focused on things right here. Now, that doesn't mean we're not concerned with global warming, with climate change. Of course, we're concerned with that, but we're concerned with it. Think globally, but act locally.
That's right.
Okay. If I said it wrong,
well,
she's fixing it. Great. Think globally, but act locally.
Yes, she did. Well, I can tell you that for one of the cities, I've only lived in a few cities my whole life, but for one of them, I just showed up to enough city council meetings and asked them to start a garden, part of their garden for a composting area. I compost in my personal, in my home, in my backyard. My plants are very happy. They even get tea leaves every morning in the water. And I think that as we individually not only do these actions, but when our grandkids ask us, Grammy, why is all that food in Ziploc bags in your freezer? And it's all vegetables and fruit peelings and things like that. And then I take them out to the compost tumbler in the backyard, and they themselves can turn it over. And in 3 weeks, they're making very rich fertilizer type soil. It's exciting when grandparents can do activities or take their kids to an arboretum.
Yes. This is exactly what needs to be done. And I'm going to hold up another book.
Okay.
I don't know this Paul Hawken personally, although he lives not far from here. Can you read the title of it?
Regeneration, Ending the Climate Crisis in One Generation.
Right. And it's by Paul Hawken, who was a businessman, invented Smith and Hawken tools. So business and nonprofit are not so far apart after all. But the point is that if he develops an optimistic attitude, and what you've just described with the grandparents and the grandchildren, or I described with my granddaughter, Annalie, connecting the generations is part of this. Because the reality is that these young people are going to outlive us. You're not quite as old as me, but in fact, they're going to outlive us, and they're going to inherit the world that we're leaving to them. So we have to help them understand what they have to do to care for it, and our caring will become transmitted to them. You know, virtue can be transmitted just like a virus, COVID or something like that.
Yes, it can. All right. And Rick, I want you to look over at the comments community. This is my other little sister, Louise Badham. And she says,
okay, I hadn't met her. I met Mary.
Yeah. Oh, you'll love Louise. She is the Rock of Gibraltar that holds the 2 helium balloon cords of her 2 sisters. She is our Rock of Gibraltar. She says, hi from Mother Earth. She has been called Mother Earth since high school. She was probably the first adult woman in her turning 18. She started to turn everything in her home into something that was green, sustainable, but then also too, she had so many different cans for so many different recyclables. She taught her children from a very young age. They're jumping in the van and going to the recycling center and taking separate bags. I'm telling you, she is. It is so beautiful.
Listen, you just need to interview your own family. You don't need to talk to me. But I will, in the latter part of our discussion, I'll talk about some groups like Elders Climate Action and Third Act and some other national groups that people need to be aware of. So we'll do that.
Okay. And Karen brings up the point that they compost and they do a great job recycling in her neck of the woods. We only have one trash can. That's so cool. I got to tell you, Karen, it joys my heart when there's only 2 things at the bottom of my waste can. And that I have 3 green recycling cans because my father, he ordered them all because he really needed to recycle, and he did anyway, it's also a family tradition, I think, is the answer about our grandkids.
Yes, it is. Yes, it begins at home.
It
really
does. It begins at home. I want to show off a couple of things that Rick does, everyone. I also brought show and tell. And the first thing he does is he writes a monthly column called
Climate Change in an Aging Society. Actually, I send it out every week, but if you don't want it, you can throw it away or recycle it, as we say.
That's right. Well, and Rick is now collecting cartoons or jokes on green. Would you please just, Mary, if you will put up his HR Moody, I think is it HR Moody at yahoo.com.
That's it. You got it.
That's
you
it.
Got it.
Guys,
you don't have any memory problems. You even remember the things that I've forgotten.
That's right. That's right. There you go. So literally, that's the things. If you have really fun, funny, or compelling cartoons about climate change,
or we have a new thing that I just started last week. What's the one thing you can do today for climate, to help the climate? Maybe it's turning out the lights in the room that you're not in, or recycling excess water for your garden or something. Right. People have sent me these things. So we need to focus on, and this is why I love when you said it was HOPE. What did it stand for?
Helping older people engage.
You got it. You got it. That's what, and by the way, that is the definition of successful aging. Yes. So that even if things go downhill, and they're going to go downhill if you live long enough, okay? Don't get some of those supplements and think, oh, if I just wolf down a few more pills, I'll never age. It's not true. No. It's not true.
And if you're going to wolf down supplements, make them all liquid, because absorption is the key, Rick.
Right. You're right.
It's no good to buy something that does not absorb at all. And so we want things at our age, we want things in liquid form or creams. So, I mean, we can compound, compounding pharmacies. I'm a firm believer in this. And I think it's so helpful, because if we can't absorb it, we cannot utilize it. And speaking of absorbing something, I'm going to take this moment, and all of my people who watch me know it is time for our water break. And everyone,
I took the break already.
There you go. Here we go. So on this show, everyone, we fight isolation. The chilling effects of isolation on our society are so bad. When people over age 65 isolate, and these are from wonderful studies done in 2015, Brigham Young University did the first study on isolation, and then UCLA captured the fame in 2017. But literally what it says is this: if humans over 65 isolate, and it has nothing to do with how many times a day you get on your cell phone, right? It has to do with human touch. It has to do with caring. It has to do with those things. If you are isolating after 65, it is like smoking 15 cigarettes a day, not for one day. Like, oh, I'm going camping and I'm kind of going to do a crazy thing. And that's like smoke 15 cigarettes around a campfire and never smoke again. No, it's smoking every single day, 15 cigarettes a day. That's how damaging to your health that social isolation is. So on this
Di is right. Di is right. And I speak as an academic gerontologist.
Thank you. Thank you, Rick. So here's the deal. Have 15 sips of water a day. And I hope for every sip you think of a neighbor, a relative, or a friend who might be lonely, who might be hiding out today. Because the number one disease of old age is depression. And I change that to say it's hopelessness. Because when people
much better
are hopeless,
description. Much better description, actually.
When people are hopeless, they give up eating correctly, they give up exercise, they give up their relationships. So 15 sips of water a day, everyone, and do that with a friend. So here we go. All right. Okay.
Hey, another face on screen.
Yay! Yay! And before we went on air, everyone, Mary goes, well, mine's vodka. And I said, oh, mine's gin.
Well, Rick volunteered first. I don't normally.
Vodka, gin, and what was the last one?
It
was something clear. We just, so yeah,
we were at the top of the hour. So Rick, is there anything that you would like to share, again, I put up your email address,
Yeah.
the website. I'm sorry, you want me to put that up where people can go sign up as well?
Yeah. Just send me a message. I'll send you a sample copy of the newsletter.
Yes.
I only send it to people who actually request it. Like my Human Values newsletter, it goes to 5,000 people every month, but only to people who request it. And if you say I'm tired of it, okay, you don't get it anymore. Encore.
Okay.
Let's. Are we gonna continue this for another half hour?
I wish
Well, you had so much fun. That is
Okay.
awesome.
Well, all right. Good.
everyone go to encore.org.
Go to Encore.
please.
They'll tell you all about what they're doing to connect the generations.
And Rick's very involved with that. And that's cool. And Rick is also involved on a bunch of other things.
Yep.
And so I have to talk you back on the show because Facebook is going to cut us off.
Okay.
But
We'll do it again. We'll do it again.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
I also wanted to tease everyone because next week we actually have our last live show for about a month or so, vacations and such. So I just wanted to tease you that we're going to have Paul Nussbaum.
I know Paul. He's the
yes,
best.
you do. Yes,
He's
you
the
do.
best.
Well, then you're going to have to come and be in our comment community and support him and cheer him on during the show. That would be great. Because he's talking about brain health and
he'll tell you what you need to know. Believe me, there's no better source.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for that star by his name. That's awesome. So we're looking forward to that. And again, I think the biggest takeaway is that really of everything is to, as we age, is to find your purpose.
That's it.
And if you feel like your purpose is to leave the world a better place and you found it, then maybe you should do something about it and be a good example to your grandkids. So
absolutely right.
That was an awesome takeaway. So thank you so much, Rick, for being on the show. And obviously Diane wants to have you back. So hopefully that'll happen.
Good. And we'll talk about the other projects you're into, because if there's a person engaged with his life and for the good of so many of us, it's you, Rick Moody. And so, gang,
okay, Diane, stop gushing.
Well, here we go.
But save it for my obituary.
Thank you for being so
That's right. So Rick, don't jump off because we always take a little picture afterwards.
Okay, fine. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
Awesome. We're going to say goodbye to the millions of fans who are watching today.
Okay, very good.
Bye, everyone.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.